Call of Duty Black Ops 1 is the game that truly defined Treyarch as a developer, at least as a developer for Call of Duty. The game was a serious alternate history story taking place in the 1960s, and was a fun deep dive into history of the Cold War and the Cuban Missile Crisis, with fun gameplay to match. We play as Alex Mason as we are being interrogated by our CIA handler, Hudson, trying to find the location of a broadcast station to prevent sleeper agents from being awakened and wreaking havoc with the Nova 6 gas, essentially committing a big old 9/11 on America before 9/11 even happened. All of the levels in the game are flashbacks within Alex Mason's mind as we are being interrogated. We have levels that take place in Vietnam, a Russian gulag, Vietnam, a Soviet space rocket site, Vietnam. Have I mentioned we're in Vietnam in this level? Oh yeah, the beginning level is us in Cuba assassinating Fidel Castro. This is how this game begins. Potential war crimes aside, characters join us throughout each of the missions to essentially guide us through the objectives. We have characters like Frank Woods, Grigory Weaver, and of course Alex Mason's favorite, Viktor Reznov. At the end of the game, it is revealed that Alex Mason, our player character, was actually brainwashed when he was thrown into the gulag. And it was actually Viktor Reznov who prevented him from being a big old terrorist to a big old terrorist for good, actually killing the Russian and Cuban scientists who were committing the brainwashing. Also, one of them was a Nazi. So yes, 3 murders and 1 big old final climax to stop a number station later, we save America, before it is then implied that Alex Mason was there for John F. Kennedy's assassination, and might have even been the person to do it. This game came out in 2010. With how things are going in the 2020s and a lot of the conspiracy theories and other articles that come out almost daily about fucking the weirdest moments in history, especially if you follow documents like that that have been released in the most recent presidential terms. Holy shit, I almost wonder if Black Ops 1 was ahead of its time, because holy fuck, that is, damn. Getting away from the fact that our world's government, all of them, go out of their way to fucking doctrinate information and then kill people because they were probably going to say something they didn't want them to say, what about the gameplay? Well, we run around with a big old gun and kill people. Were you expecting me to say more? It's Call of Duty. It's been the same thing since 2003. Really? 2003? That's it? Just 2003? Like, damn. That's actually kind of I thought it was gonna be like 97 or something. Damn. Call of Duty does typically just kind of stick very closely to the rule of cool. We're given shootout segments, driving segments while we're also shooting. We get stealth sections where we shoot people. We get other cool things like riding on a train while shooting people. It's Call of Duty. What do you want me to say for the gameplay? I mean, control-wise, the game feels just fine. I mean, it feels kind of outdated and a little janky in some places, but it's 2010. What do you want from a first-person shooter? Even though the gameplay itself isn't the best, there are some cool segments, like when we're in a helicopter and we're shooting down other helicopters, or when we're in a boat shooting down other boats, or when we're under the water blowing up a submarine. Again, with just guns. It's all fucking guns. There's nothing to this gameplay-wise. I mean, at least the game sets out and perfectly accomplishes what it sets out to accomplish. Every single level in this game purely exists to get us from point A to point B within the story. Every level starts with an objective. Every level ends with you completing that objective, leading you on into the next level to complete your next objective. Despite all the levels being incredibly linear and not really having anything going on for them aside from just a couple of levels with an interesting gimmick within it, I'd say the campaign is still a lot of fun, as well as just Black Ops 1 as a whole. It's a solid Call of Duty game, and it's a solid big budget AAA 2010s game for your PS3 and 360. But despite all that, being very linear and kind of restrictive and not very interesting in of itself is its own kind of fun. I mean, hey, I like Sonic the Hedgehog 4. Clearly my standards are not very high. As far as how the game looks, it actually looks pretty good for 2010 standards, and also pretty good for today's standards, I'd say. You know, doesn't really look any better than anything that comes out nowadays, but it most certainly doesn't look any worse. I feel like the sound design is where this game visually and audibly really shines, as so many of the sound effects from footsteps and guys grunting and background dialogue and languages I don't understand, and the gun sounds. Ooh, the gun sounds. It's like ASMR. And when your ears are not creaming their ear holes from the delicious little sounds, ranging from a pin on a grenade or an M1 Garand, to the bang bang of a pistol or an AR, or the boom of a rocket launcher, the voice acting, the voice acting carries this game's story in a lot of ways. It's a good story, but the voice acting, oh my god, the voice acting is so good. Especially for the voice actor of Frank Woods. We don't really spend a whole lot of time with him, but what little time we get of a cutscene with just Frank Woods, he could be talking about the time that he had sloppy seconds with a little Vietnamese 14-year-old with an 80-year-old woman, and I don't care. His voice, the way he pronounces every single word, it is just beautiful. It's a symphony to my ears. Alright, it's time to talk multiplayer, and I'm just gonna go ahead and say it, I was unable to play against actual people this time around for the Black Ops 1 review. I did try, trust me, I did try, but sadly, at least on the PS3, this game is pretty much just dead in the water. You can, every now and then, find some servers and some lobbies. Every now and then, you can even find some full lobbies. But the majority of the people are just sweats, or they're literally just children playing on their dad's PS3s just to see what the old Call of Duty was like. There is in no way any real need to come back to Black Ops 1, because there is no online activity anymore. Thus, I'm not going to really judge the game based on how active it is online, but thankfully, you can still play the Black Ops 1 multiplayer with bot AI. And might I just go ahead and say, these bots are positively the biggest pieces of shit I've ever seen. Not because they're bad AI, because they play like the scummiest of motherfuckers. First of all, they drop shot. They will run up to you, go prone on the ground, and shoot you in your kneecaps, before you even have a chance to realize you're getting janked off by some guy named Jamal 3Arc. Second of all, these motherfuckers camp. They'll camp in corners, they'll camp behind your little objects and then peep their heads out and shoot you in your fucking toes and then hide back behind the barrel again. They'll even camp in fucking bushes, doorways. They'll set up claymores behind them so that way you can't enter a room without them knowing and then butt-fucking you in the process. I absolutely love that Treyarch paid such attention to detail at what kind of players there were in the Call of Duty community, and the fact that they intentionally designed the bots around that. But I also fucking hate them for that these are the bots that I must play against for this review. When it comes to the multiplayer map design, it's pretty good, it's pretty solid, but it doesn't really have any of that signature Treyarch flair that you come to know and sometimes love and sometimes loathe, and it's very much just kind of interchangeable with other Call of Duties of the time. There doesn't really feel like a reason to play this game over any of the Modern Warfares or even Black Ops 2, because none of the map design really feels like it hits its stride in this game. It feels very much like a first attempt, then we've had 2 previous games to figure out what the fuck we want to do. This very much feels kind of like Infinity Ward's template, with Treyarch playing within Infinity Ward's own sandbox. I think that's the best way to explain it. The actual moment-to-moment gameplay isn't that bad, and I even kind of like it, but sitting down and actually judging the multiplayer as a whole, not even considering the fact that it's dead now, I think you're just better off playing a much more modern Call of Duty. Even if somehow after this video's release, Black Ops 1 gets fully revived by the Call of Duty community, and you can hop in and play like against full 8v8 or 6v6 multiplayer matches, I still think you're just better off playing one of the more modern Call of Duties, entirely because of how much better the game's control, how much better the sound design gets as the games evolve, to the point where you can actually hear people's footsteps and know which way they're coming from, as well as just a bunch of other improvements with gun gameplay, and movement, and aiming. I just feel like as an overall package, the game came out in 2010, thus it holds up perfectly to the standards of 2010, but to the standards of 2026, again, it's good. You can have fun with this if you can get in a full lobby of players around your own skill level and you're not being dominated on and having to drink some dude's ball sweat, or you're not dominating on little children, making them drink your ball sweat. If you can get a perfect mixture of all the right chemicals and cocktails in with Black Ops 1 servers, you can have some of the most fun you could have on Call of Duty, but also you might as well just play with bots because that's never going to happen. And if you really need to play an active online Call of Duty, again, even if there was a way to revive the game, it's just better to play one of the more modern games just for a lot of the more bells and whistles they have. Now, I would talk about zombies in this part of the video, but while making this video I came to a decision. I'm actually going to skip zombies for now, as well as with any game that features Call of Duty Zombies game modes, as I want to review every single map of Call of Duty Zombies separately. Thus, a lot of the things I say about zombies is going to be repeated a lot between those videos, and so I'd rather just kind of skip over zombies as a whole, as I feel like zombies is big enough. You can pretty much talk about zombies as its own separate game, separate from the rest of Call of Duty. I then also kind of wanted to do that with the multiplayer. I originally, this video was just going to be just the campaign and the overall gameplay experience, but then I decided the multiplayer in Call of Duty, that's the whole thing. So zombies will be its own separate thing. I've already started working on the first zombies video, so look out for that. When looking at any Call of Duty game, and really any video game in general, it's always important to break down the game into all of its core components. It's important to examine every single aspect of the game and come up with your own opinions on each and every tiny little detail. So that way, when you finally put the whole game back together, you take the campaign, the multiplayer, the zombies, even though I completely skipped over it in this video for my own reasons, everything as a complete package, both with and without the game's DLCs, is really solid. Again, the game suffers a lot from its age, mostly because it is a online-focused game. It's not full live service, but the fact that the majority of your playtime and the majority of your fun comes from the online element really does kind of hold the game back in the modern day. And again, when looking at everything both individually as one whole, that begins to shift my opinions on Black Ops 1. All in all, you can have a lot of fun with Call of Duty Black Ops, both by yourself, with friends, online, offline. There is fun to be had in every single part of the game. But to actually critique and say you should or shouldn't play the game, I would say you can play the game. If you have nothing better to do, why not play the game instead of replaying Fortnite for the 1,000th millionth time? Or going through and loading up a match of Sonic the Hedgehog 2 on your Sega Genesis, totally real console and not just an emulator. The campaign is a 7 out of 10. The story, the gameplay, it all comes together in the end just to make a really solid experience, but could definitely be improved upon and be better with future entries, and I think it does get better. I think the stories and the cinematics become much more interesting and much more enthusiastic about the story they're trying to tell. I think the gameplay most certainly gets way better and evolves as the years go on with Call of Duty. Black Ops 1 Zombies, again, despite not really talking about it, I feel like also solidly sits at a 7, maybe a 6 out of 10. Again, I can't even really talk about the game mode, just skip zombies. The multiplayer, I have to look in two separate ways. Nowadays, oh my god, this game is awful with multiplayer. It's a 2 out of 10. But even just turning back the clock to, say, 2017, back when the older Call of Duties were much more active and alive and people cared for them much more than they do now. Not to say that people don't care about Call of Duty, but they clearly don't care like they used to, despite saying they still do. So back then, or nowadays, give the game a 2 out of 10. Back then, oh my god, if you could actually go back in time and play the game when it was alive and fun, I would probably be convinced to say a 9 out of 10. If I could somehow get like a modern day scenario where the game's alive, but I still have the much more modern options, throw it at like a 5 or a 6 out of 10. It's good, but there's no reason to go back to it over other games. Maybe just to check out the old maps that you won't find in more modern games. Which finally brings me to the overall everything accounted for. Accounting for the fact that the game is dead nowadays, accounting for the fact that if you could somehow get the game alive again, it would be an amazing experience with friends, or just randoms online. The fact that Zombies is really fucking good and the true foundation of what Zombies will become and what it should be. And the fact that the campaign, despite, in my opinion, being really lackluster compared to what can and will come after it and what campaigns can and should be, I would honestly say this game is a solid, no arguing 8 out of 10 game. Again, just for the love of Christ, Xbox, if you're gonna spend like $10 bajillion on Call of Duty, at least revive the servers. God damn.